It's been said we are all just a life event away from being homeless. It can happen to anyone for a host of all different reasons. In fact, 1 in 3 families are a month's pay from losing their homes, a statistic that proves just how vulnerable we all are. In England, 3,569 people sleep rough each night. The underlying causes of homelessness are varied and complex. For many, homelessness has arisen from relationship, family breakdowns. Other contributing factors are a loss of a job, addiction problems or mental health. These are life events that could happen to each and every one of us. As Bristol City Council continues to cut budgets for the homeless, the work for charities increases. This film will highlight the ongoing work charities do to help those living on the streets.
Okay, so the big issue is a group made up of 3 different organisations. We've got the company, the foundation and Invest. We don't really have a lot to do with Invest here in Bristol, so if I just talk about the company and the foundation. So the company is a social enterprise that was set up by John Bird in 1991. It started with a bit of money that was given to him from the Body Shop Foundation, and the whole idea behind it was giving people who are homeless, vulnerably housed or in financial crisis the opportunity to earn money. Just from his own experience, he realised that there were lots of organisations giving things like food, clothes, accommodation, but not the opportunity to earn their own money. So this was a way to help people progress in sort of thinking about employment and money management. So it's a weekly magazine, it comes out every Monday. It costs the public £2.50 and the vendors buy it for £1.25. And they have targets to hit, they have to follow a code of conduct, we give them allocated pitches, and so the magazine is put together in Glasgow and it's made up of a team of any other magazine, so journalists, editors, graphic designers, advertising, all that, and is just distributed around the country every Saturday, and then it goes out and is sold every week throughout the week. I feel like this is...
There are over 100 street vendors who work at the Big Issue. Martha will explain exactly what they do.
So there is a stigma attached to selling the Big Issue, and a lot of people club together vendors with beggars and buskers when really it's very different. As I was saying about like the target, following the code of conduct, following the pitch system. If people don't hit their target or they do breach the code of conduct, obviously if someone has a real reason, so if they were ill or they'd gone home for the week or whatever, that's fine. But if we get reports from external agencies, so for example we're really working closely with police and local PCSOs, managers of all the different shops where the pitches are, if we get reports that someone is sitting down or not getting rid of the magazine when someone's trying to buy it off them, we do issue suspensions. So it seems harsh, but actually in terms of employability it is helping develop someone career-wise, because if in the future when they get a job they have to realise that there are certain rules to follow, and it also is just better for their self-esteem if they're not begging and they are selling.
Bristol has seen the biggest percentage increase in homelessness in the last year. In the last 3 years it has risen by a huge 90%. Dave Perry from Emmaus will explain the reasons behind the increase.
So Bristol has a growing homelessness issue. In fact, Bristol is it's got the highest number of homeless people outside of central London now, and it's becoming worse with the fact that it's more difficult to get benefits. There's budget cuts in all the areas, and there's more people in need and in poverty. So it's something that we really work hard to help, but it's becoming more and more difficult because there's more and more people to help, because there's nothing else, nowhere else for people to go. So all the agencies in the city, the statutory services, the charities, the churches, various people around the city who provide services towards homeless people to support them, work very well together. There's some very good networks. We support each other, we work together as much as we can, and that's improving. There's always been a good relationship between agencies in the city, and it's developing more and more. So this coming winter there's a project to run an extra night shelter just for 4 weeks at the worst of the winter, and that's being worked on by a number of charities and the local authority and churches in the area, and it's a real gathering of all the services. So there's an improved partnership amongst the city, and we're developing a very good close relationship, so that we're all doing the same thing and we can all make that better if we work together.
To give you a real insight into what it is like to be homeless, you have to talk to those who have experienced living on the streets themselves. Jack is a street vendor for The Big Issue who works outside the Boston Tea Party on the busy Park Street in Bristol. Jack has been homeless since he was 16 after he tragically lost his mother to cancer. Since then, he has been on and off the streets all across the UK, from Manchester to Cornwall. Before he became a street vendor, Jack used to spot beg and sleep in hostels and abandoned buildings. Without The Big Issue and the kind-hearted people of Bristol, life would be very different for Jack. Every vendor's story is different, but this is Jack's story.
I started working on The Big Issue. Well, the first time I ever did The Big Issue was about 15 years ago. I'd left the bedsit, and basically the landlord had kept my deposit and my rent in advance, and I was absolutely stuffed. So it was the first time I'd ever been properly homeless, and it was really disturbing. And the only way I could think of to get money at the time was begging, and I got hassled by the police an awful lot. Eventually, an outreach guy from The Issue had come around, talked to someone else, and he offered to get me badged up. It really, really helped. Everything started to get together then. This time, I ended up homeless when I was in a relationship that I was in was getting so heated and so intense that I literally had to just drop everything and leave. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened, And again, I'd started begging, and the police had made it very, very clear that I was going to get arrested if I carried on. So instead I got badged up with The Issue again. And that was when I started to get a bit more structure in my life again, started to get things together. And that led to me meeting my now wife, Tony, which was incredible. Because, if I hadn't had somewhere for her to go past every couple of weeks and get chatting, I never would have ended up getting close enough to her for her to invite me in when my room in the underground car park got boarded up. And, eventually we got together, we got married, and that turned into an incredible, amazing thing. One of my customers was a vicar, and he offered to do the ceremony for free, and another customer put a little tiny bit in a local paper, and it just exploded into this mad, huge event. But I was very lucky to get off the streets this time. It's so easy to just fall through the cracks and end up without anywhere to live. And if it wasn't for things like The Issue, there'd be no way back once you're down there, and it's a very, very, very important organisation. The issue changed for me was my self-respect. When you get made homeless and you're forced to do things like begging, it shatters your self-esteem. It's absolutely toxic and corrosive to sit there begging for something for nothing. It's poisonous. I very much agree with John Bird in that. And having something that not only could I do to earn money, but turned out I was actually quite good at as well, it really helped to give me my self-respect and my self-esteem back. I mean, I haven't been forced to claim benefits. I can still, get out and earn my money, and it did so much to put me in a state where I was able to take advantage of the opportunities that were then presented to me.
There is a negative stigma attached to those who are homeless. In today's society, we are very quick to judge those who are vulnerable and struggling in life. The homeless are often seen as unequal in the community. They're all categorised as beggars, and many assume they are homeless as a result of being lazy and not wanting to work. Not only are the homeless negatively stereotyped, research shows those who live on the streets are more likely to be victims of violence and abuse. In 2016, 80% of homeless people have been physically abused, and 6 in 10 have admitted to being verbally abused. It is feared these statistics could be higher due to unreported crimes.
The main problem with alienation as regards to homeless people is that when people feel like they're outside of a system, they don't feel like they have any investment in the system at all. if people don't feel like there's any hope that things can get better, then there's absolutely no reason to not behave in any way you see fit. When people are driven right to the edges of human experience, they end up punishing themselves as much as they take it out on society, they take it out on themselves as well. The further you alienate someone, the further you otherize someone, the harder it is to come back from that.
For many of those living on the streets of Britain, the future is bleak. However, Jack has found a new lease of life since working for The Big Issue and has big plans for the future. Without The Big Issue, Jack recognises just how different life could be.
At the very least, it would have taken a hell of a lot longer to get back to something approaching humanity. And at the very worst, I might not even be in it.
Through his work at The Big Issue, Jack has been able to save his money to help fund his future in the social sciences. His future is bright.
I've actually got my Open University course. I'm on a double degree, Open University Psychology, Sociology. I eventually want to get into research into dual diagnosis, which is when someone presents with a mental health problem and a substance misuse problem. The longer people are waiting for assessments and the longer people are waiting between assessments and treatment, the more people try and self-medicate with drugs or alcohol. And when you've got really quite profound mental health conditions like schizophrenia or bipolar, it just makes everything so much more complex. The fact that the services aren't linked up adds a whole another layer of complexity. I talked to someone that got bounced between the mental health service and the addiction services 3 separate times before anyone would even give him an appointment, and it's just insane. And until the right research is done in the right ways, nothing's going to change. So that's eventually what I want to get into, but you need a lot of letters for that. You need a lot of letters before and after your name.
From people huddled in shop doorways to abandoned sleeping bags left in car parks, the growing problem of homelessness is evident on the streets of Bristol. On my own street count, I found 15 people sleeping rough on just the streets of the popular shopping centre Cabot Circus and the harbour side. Without a doubt, the numbers would have been horrifyingly higher if I was to venture further into the city. It is astonishing just how many people are homeless in our vibrant city. Every person has a story, and after meeting Jack and hearing his tragic start in life, my view of the homeless has most definitely changed. It's hard to believe we walk past those living on the street without giving them a second glance, ignoring their pleas for change to help pay for a warm bed for the night. It is even worse to imagine these vulnerable people being abused, both physically and verbally. I truly hope this will change the way you treat the homeless. Perhaps next time you will spare £2.50 to give to your local street vendor, as that small amount of change could help change their future for the better. Let's put a stop to alienating the homeless. Although their stories are different, everyone is equal.